It is 3 o'clock in the morning. Your house is dark. You are asleep. The neighborhood is silent. And in the yard just outside your window, in the same trees, the same bushes, the same feeder you look at every single morning, something is happening right now that you have never seen. That almost nobody has ever seen. Not because it is hidden. Not because it is rare. Because it happens every single night while you sleep, in complete darkness, 3 feet from your bedroom window, and nobody ever told you to look. Tonight that changes. I want you to think about the last time you woke up at 3 a.m. Maybe you went to the bathroom. Maybe you couldn't sleep. Maybe something pulled you out of a dream. And the house was completely quiet. But was it? Because right now, tonight, at this exact hour, the birds in your yard are not asleep the way you think they are. Some of them are not asleep at all. Some of them are engaged in behaviors so extraordinary, so specific, and so completely invisible to you, that if you could see them through your window right now, you would not be able to look away. Welcome back to Backyard Birds Whisper. Subscribe before this video ends because what you are about to learn happens 3 feet from where you sleep every single night, and after tonight you will never hear the darkness outside your window the same way again. Stay until the very end. Because Section 6, the most dangerous hour in your bird's entire day, happens at a time you would never expect. And when I tell you what your birds do in that hour to survive it, you will understand for the first time what it truly costs a small bird to make it to your feeder every morning. Before we go into what happens at 3 a.m. specifically, you need to understand something about how birds experience night. Because it is not what most people imagine. The common picture is simple. Sun goes down. Birds go to sleep. Sun comes up. Birds wake up. Clean, predictable, tidy. The reality is far more complicated. And far more interesting. First, not all of your backyard birds are in the same place at 3 a.m. Some of them are in your yard right now, in the exact spots you would expect. Your cardinal is in the holly bush 15 feet from your bedroom. Your chickadee is in the woodpecker hole in the oak. They found their roost sites before dark and they have not moved. But some of the birds you consider your backyard birds, the ones you think of as yours, are not in your yard at all at 3 a.m. They are above it. Or they were above it 2 hours ago, flying north at 2,000 feet in complete darkness, navigating by stars and magnetic field, crossing a distance in one night that would take you 3 days to drive. And some of them, the ones that surprise people most, are awake. Fully, deliberately, productively awake. Not because something disturbed them. Because 3 a.m. is when their biology calls them to be awake. The American robin is the most dramatic example. In suburban and urban areas with artificial light, and if you have a street light near your yard, this includes you, robins will begin singing as early as 1 or 2 in the morning. Not a sleepy, half-formed song. The full territorial dawn chorus, triggered not by actual dawn but by the artificial light that their brain cannot distinguish from the real thing. If you have ever been jolted awake at 3 a.m. by what sounded unmistakably like birdsong and thought you were imagining it, you were not. That was a robin in your yard, fully alert, singing its complete territorial song, because the streetlight told its brain that morning had arrived 3 hours early. The darkness you sleep through is not dark to all of them. And the silence you hear is not silence at all. The birds that are roosting in your yard at 3 a.m. are not unconscious. They are in a state that has no real equivalent in human experience. And once you understand it, the yard outside your window at night becomes an entirely different place. It is called unihemispheric slow-wave sleep. And it means exactly what it sounds like. One hemisphere of the bird's brain enters a sleep state. The other hemisphere stays awake. The eye connected to the sleeping hemisphere closes. The eye connected to the waking hemisphere stays open, scanning, monitoring, processing. The 2 hemispheres take turns. Every few minutes, they switch. The sleeping side wakes. The waking side rests. This cycling continues through the entire night, so that by morning both hemispheres have received adequate rest, but the bird has never been fully unconscious for a single moment. Cornell Lab of Ornithology researchers first documented this clearly in mallard ducks sleeping in a row at the water's edge. The ducks on the outside of the group, the ones most exposed to predator approach, kept their outward-facing eye open at significantly higher rates than the ducks in the center. The vigilance was distributed. The flock was collectively never fully asleep. The same principle applies to your chickadee in the oak tree at 3 a.m. It is roosting. Its body temperature has dropped. Its metabolism has slowed. But one eye is open. One hemisphere is monitoring. The snap of a twig in your yard at 3 a.m. is being heard and processed by a bird that you would look at and swear was completely asleep. That bird is not asleep. It is resting and watching at the same time. It has been doing this every night of its life. It will do it again tonight, 3 feet from where you sleep, with one eye open in the dark. Here is the part that most people find genuinely unsettling, in the best possible way. At 3 a.m., while your roosting birds are in their half-sleep state, something else is moving through your yard. Not a predator, necessarily. Not a threat. But a visitor. A regular, deliberate visitor that comes to your yard at night with the same consistency that your cardinals come in the morning. And you have almost certainly never seen it. The eastern screech owl is present in more suburban yards than most people realize. It is small, barely larger than a coffee mug. It is almost perfectly silent in flight. And it hunts at night, specifically in the hours between midnight and 4 a.m., in exactly the kind of mixed suburban landscape your yard represents. Trees, shrubs, a birdbath. A feeder base with scattered seeds that attract the mice and large insects the owl is actually hunting. Your birdbath and feeder, which you think of as daytime infrastructure, are functioning as hunting infrastructure for a screech owl at 3 a.m. The seeds attract mice. The mice attract the owl. The owl arrives, hunts, departs, all in complete silence while you sleep 20 feet away. Your roosting birds know it is there. The open eye, the active hemisphere, the continuous monitoring, all of it is oriented partly toward exactly this kind of nocturnal visitor. A screech owl landing in the oak at 3 a.m. produces an immediate response in every roosting bird within detection range, not a full alarm flush, because flying in darkness toward an unknown threat is its own danger, but a shift in posture, a tightening of feathers, a redirection of the open eye. The yard goes on high alert. Silently. Invisibly. In complete darkness. While you sleep. Something visits your yard every night. It has been coming for years. You have put out the welcome mat without knowing it. And every bird in your yard has been dealing with the consequences while you dreamed. If you have ever been awake at 3 a.m. and heard a sound from the yard that you could not identify, a soft chip, a rustle in the shrubs, a thin high note that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once, I want to tell you what you were hearing. Small songbirds produce what ornithologists call nocturnal flight calls during migration season. These are thin, high-pitched contact notes, usually lasting less than half a second, produced by birds flying overhead in the dark to maintain contact with other migrants they cannot see. The calls are quiet enough that they are almost inaudible from the ground on a normal night, but on still nights, in the hours between midnight and 4 a.m. during spring and fall migration, you can sometimes hear them if you stand in your yard and listen. They are coming from birds flying 200, 500, 1,000 feet above your house. Birds you will never see. Birds that may have left the Gulf Coast 12 hours ago and will land somewhere in Canada before the week is out. Birds that will never visit your feeder, never know your yard exists, never slow down enough to register anything below them except a point on a magnetic map they are following through the dark. And then there is another sound. The one that stops people when they hear it for the first time at 3 a.m. and cannot explain it. A soft, conversational chip from the holly bush beside your bedroom window. Not alarm. Not song. Just presence. The contact call that a roosting bird produces into the darkness, not loudly, not urgently, but consistently. A small sound that means, I am here. The night is passing. I am still here. That sound has been happening outside your bedroom window for every night that cardinal has been roosting in your holly bush. Every night. In the dark. 3 feet from where you sleep. You just did not know to listen for it. This is section 6. The one I promised you at the beginning. The most dangerous hour in your bird's entire day, and it is not when you think. It is not the hawk that comes at noon. Not the cat that patrols in the evening. The most dangerous hour for a small backyard bird is the hour just before dawn. The hour between approximately 4 and 5 a.m., depending on the season. The hour when the night's energy reserves are at their absolute lowest and the morning's first food is still an hour away. Remember that a black-capped chickadee weighs 11 grams. 2 pennies. On a cold night, that bird is burning calories simply to maintain enough body temperature to stay alive. It entered the night with a small fat reserve, carefully accumulated from your feeder and every natural food source in its territory during the daylight hours. It has been burning that reserve all night. By 4 a.m., the reserve is nearly gone. If the night has been unusually cold, the reserve may already be gone. This is the hour when small birds die. Not dramatically. Not with any visible struggle. They simply do not have enough energy left to warm themselves through one more hour of darkness. They go still. Their temperature drops below the threshold their regulated hypothermia can maintain. And by the time the sun rises, the branch is empty. The birds that make it through this hour do so through extraordinary physiological precision. The regulated hypothermia they entered at dusk, the deliberate lowering of body temperature by up to 22 degrees Fahrenheit, has conserved just enough energy to survive to first light. The roosting cavity they chose has trapped just enough of their body heat to keep the math in their favor. And then, at the exact moment that the first gray light appears in the eastern sky, before you are awake, before your alarm goes off, before the coffee is made, they move. Because the first bird to the food source in the morning is the one most likely to survive the next night. And they have been waiting in the dark, with one eye open, burning the last of their reserves, for exactly this moment. The bird at your feeder at first light is not casually dropping by for breakfast. It has survived the night by the narrowest possible margin and it has come to you first. Think about that the next time you see it waiting on the branch before you have even filled the feeder. I want to leave you with a thought that I have not been able to let go of since I first understood what small birds go through between dusk and dawn. Every morning when you see the chickadee at the feeder, the one that has been coming for 2 years, the one you recognize, the one that holds its ground when you approach, that bird spent the previous night doing something almost incomprehensible. It found a cavity in the dark. It lowered its own body temperature by 20 degrees to save energy. It slept with one eye open for 8 hours, monitoring for predators it could not see. It burned through its fat reserves to the edge of what its physiology could sustain. It survived the most dangerous hour, that gray, lightless stretch before dawn when small birds die quietly on cold branches, by the narrowest of margins. And then it came to your feeder. Not because it was the closest food source. Not because your yard happened to be in the way. Because your yard, your feeder, your consistent presence over months and years has made you a fixed and reliable point in that bird's survival map. The first stop after the hardest part of the day. The place it has learned, through accumulated experience, it can count on. Tonight, when you go to sleep, that bird will go through all of it again. The cavity, the temperature drop, the one open eye, the dangerous hour before dawn. And if everything goes right, if the night is not too cold, if the owl stays away, if the reserves hold, it will be at your feeder again in the morning, waiting for you, the way it always is, the way it has been every single morning, through every night you slept without knowing what was happening 3 feet from your window. Now you know. Tonight, before you go to sleep, I want you to do one thing. Stand at your window for 60 seconds. Look at the yard in the dark, the holly bush, the oak tree, the feeder post, and know that what you are looking at is not empty. It is full of birds in extraordinary states of survival, monitoring the darkness with one eye open, burning through their last reserves, waiting for the light. They're out there right now. They have always been out there. You just never knew to look. Tell me in the comments, have you ever heard something in your yard at 3 a.m. and not known what it was? A sound, a movement, something that pulled you out of sleep? Tell me. Because I think more people have heard their birds in the dark than have ever admitted it. And this community is the right place for that story. If this changed the way you think about the darkness outside your window, share it with someone who loves their birds. They have been sleeping through something extraordinary. It is time they knew. Thank you for being here at Backyard Birds Whisper. I'll see you in the next one.